pretty good looking pawpaw crop this year. Pawpaw's over here behind me. Hanging as well as usual at least, which means that I'll have plenty of pawpaws for me. I'll have pawpaws for friends, neighbors, relatives. I'll have pawpaws to sell. I'll also have pawpaws that will go overripe and won't be really much good for eating. Those are the ones that I use to propagate with. Whether you're growing seedling pawpaw trees or whether you're grafting name cultivars, you still need to have a seedling pawpaw as a rootstock. Despite the fact that I'm a firm believer if you're working with good genetics on pawpaws, one of the best ways to go actually is to raise the trees from seed, because my seed came from a local source. Ray Jones, one of the foremost pawpaw experts in the Bay Area. Ray had isolated superior cultivars that worked really well in this area. And so by taking Ray's seeds and planting them here at my house, I ended up with trees that got the benefit of Ray's work for many years, that were adapted to the local environment here in Fremont. So my trees are seedling grown. They're superior. I really like them. And I recommend other people growing them from seed, provided you have the time. The pawpaw from seed probably takes anywhere between 5 and 15 years to come into bearing. And so this is a challenge for humans who are always, oh, is it done now? Can we have it yesterday? We're kind of like time sick as a culture. We move so fast that few of us really feel we have the time to put a decade into growing a fruit tree. Cultivating slow-growing trees from seed is a meditation for human beings that makes us healthier, both physically and psychologically. It relaxes us. And it's just a wonderful thing to do. It's a whole lot of fun. So I'd like to talk about how to grow the pawpaw trees from seed. And as I said already, I take overripe fruit down from my tree, and then I take the fruit over and I bury it in the fall in compost. Right here is one of my compost bins. And right down at the bottom of it over here is a place where I've spilled out a lot of the compost that was made the last time around between the bin and my kumquat. Down there in the compost, you'll see little green leaves. All these little green leaves over here are baby pawpaw trees. Last fall, I took overripe fruit. I buried it under a layer of compost next to the bin, and I walked away. Somewhere between June and July, the seedlings began to emerge. It takes a long time to get a pawpaw seed to sprout. They have to sit over winter in the soil. And if you don't want to do it in the soil, as I've done outdoors, then you have to put them in the refrigerator, wrapped up, say, in wet moss, damp moss, in a plastic bag in your vegetable crisper. That's called stratifying, and that will bring the seed out of dormancy, so it'll germinate in the spring. I find it much easier. Just plant the seeds in fall. And in this case, I found that cleaning pawpaw seed out of fruit is a messy, ugly process. It's really sticky and sweet and goopy, and I don't enjoy it very much. And so I've given that up in favor of just throwing the fruit in the ground and covering it in compost and waiting until the seeds germinate. Right here, you'll see there's a pawpaw seed. That's a shell that has already opened and come off of the stem. And so that's what they look like. I buried quite a few of them over here. They germinate erratically. Some of the seed hasn't germinated yet. Some of the seed has big leaves on it. Some of it's just little shoots coming up. Whatever. So the next thing to do now is I made the soil damp so it'll be workable and so the plants are hydrated. And next I'm just going to take a shovel of these and turn them up out of the dirt. Well, here I am at the potting bench. I have a nice cluster of pawpaw seedlings laying on the bench that we dug out with a shovel. Tried to get them up without breaking the roots up. Over here, I've got a whole bunch of plastic flower pots with some potting soil in it that I made up. The potting soil is only halfway up the cans. That makes it easier for me to get the seedlings in there. On the other side of the bench over here, I have cans that are full of potting soil. I'm going to use those to fill up the other half of the can once I get the seedling in. These have one heck of a taproot on it. The pawpaw tree grows almost like a carrot, and one of the reasons that it's good to raise this plant from seed is because if you raise it from seed in the site, then the taproot is never disturbed. And so if you take a nice young pawpaw tree like this guy right here and transplant this, you're going to end up with a taproot that goes all the way down into the soil where it can reach some moisture. This here, for instance, this little guy, this was a seed last October. And so it took me from October last year to late August this year to even get something that big. And if you'll see, it's got one little tiny leaf up there on the end. Big deal, right? Yeah, so we were talking, this is a whole year's work right here that I'm staring at with the pawpaw. Now that I've got them all in here in the pots, I'm going to take my full cans of soil I had on the other side. I'm going to begin sifting some soil in here around these roots. I've already poked a hole in the bottom of the pot with my fingers to get the taproot to go down as deep as it can. So I happen to like working with time-release fertilizers, but whether you want to use a time-release in here or you want to use an organic, it really doesn't matter. They'll both work fine. Just make sure in either case that the fertilizers are pushed under the surface of the soil. They won't go to work unless they get wet, whether it's a time-release or an organic. So there we got a nice bench full of little baby pawpaws. Aren't they cute? Next we have to give them some water. Well, now I got all my little pawpaws down here next to the compost heap. Behind got some shrubs over here and a big old monstera that's kind of producing a little bit of shade for them. It's important with pawpaw seedlings that you put them in a little bit of shade because they can be sun sensitive. Not all, but some of them are. Make sure that you water the soil in really good. Settle all the air spaces out and dampen up the seedlings, since I dug these up out of the ground a bit ago. And the soil here in California at the moment is not very wet. Well, there we go. Little pawpaw babies. It'll take them a few years, but you know, at the best, I've had some of the trees from seed that they would come into fruiting within about 6 years. Probably 8 to 10 years is typical, but anyway, no one wants to waste a pawpaw. This is America's largest native fruit, and we should treat it with patriotic respect. Our country 'tis of thee, sweet land of...